Hey everybody, welcome to the Deconversionists on Skeptic Haven with your hosts Alan Bondar, aka the Unraveler, and my co-host
Elliot.
That'll
do.
That'll do, pig. Hey Elliot, I feel a little bit like a pickle tonight.
Do you? Why is that?
I'm having a little bit of an identity crisis.
Okay, tell me more. I'm intrigued.
So I made some cured salmon the last couple of days, cured it, right? And I used dill on it to as part of the cure to give it some flavor. And so that made me kind of feel picklish.
Okay. That's all it takes to have an identity crisis.
That's all it takes. That's all it takes. And so if you follow rules that you're supposed to follow, which I did with this curing salmon thing, it makes you feel like the thing. So, I was just trying.
You felt like a pickle, but not a salmon?
Maybe I should have felt like a salmon. I don't know. Maybe I should have felt like a gravlax. Gravlax also is part of making cured salmon. So maybe I should have felt like, I don't know, man.
I have no idea what that is.
And I have no idea where I'm going with this, other than speaking of.
You're trying to tie this into tonight's topic. Trying very hard.
Speaking of identity crisis, when you follow the rules in Christianity, you feel like a Christian. I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you, dude. I worked really hard on that one for like 3 seconds before we hopped on.
Well, for 3 seconds, you did pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Maybe next time you work on it for 3 minutes.
Or 3 days, maybe. That'd be even better.
No, that's too much work.
Agreed. I felt like 3 seconds was too much work, but here we are.
You recorded your own Unraveler segment on this, what, two days ago? So you had around 3 days to figure this out.
I guess I did. Yes. Yeah, I really should.
Now I'm not impressed anymore.
No, I didn't think you were impressed to begin with, but hey, guess
I just wanted to see where the fuck this was going. All right.
Well,
now we can call you Ellen Dill Bondar.
Ellen Dill Bondar. Or just Alan Bondil. That's also possible.
Or just Pickle.
Good God. We're losing viewers as we speak.
Well, we turn this into a comedy show. We might actually get some viewers.
Maybe. Hey, listen, y'all. If you are tuning in right now, save the world from this conversation. Help us out and call in or hop in and have a conversation with us about identity crisis. Christianity causes an identity crisis, not an identity crisis. This whole thing's messed up. It should be an identity crisis. So yeah, we're just screwing this thing up.
I'm curious to see how you make that point, because I can imagine a lot of Christians making the counterclaim that leaving Christianity causes an identity crisis, and I can technically see how they might be right, because when you are a Christian, that's your identity. So wouldn't you be more likely to have an identity crisis if you leave Christianity?
Yes, so my point. Christianity causes an identity crisis. So first of all, when you become a Christian, it gives you your identity. It tells you who you are, who you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to expect, what you're supposed to hope in, who you're supposed to love. Everything, basically, all the rules are laid out for you. This is who you're supposed to be. And I know, even like I was just thinking about it today and the last couple of days about decisions that I make for myself, things that I want to do, things that I want to watch, things that I want to entertain myself with, things I want to say, who I want to hang out with, basically just about anything. When I was a Christian, I had to question every decision I made. Like everything I wanted to do, I had to pause and be like, is this what God wants? Is this what I'm supposed to do? Is this what I'm allowed to do? And it may not have even been something where I consciously did it every time, but subconsciously, even, there was always in the back of my mind this question of whether I'm doing the right thing. Am I supposed to be doing this? And then after you would do it, sometimes you'd feel guilty for it. You'd be like, should I have done that? Oh my goodness, woe is me. I feel so horrible. Whereas, now you leave Christianity, and so first of all, you have the identity issue to deal with, and we'll get to that in a second. But regarding this particular thing, I don't really do that as much anymore. I don't care as much. Like there's nobody there's nobody ruling over me telling me what I'm supposed to be, so I just don't give a shit nearly as much. I have my morals that I live by, that I have subjectively decided upon, because that's the way morality works. And so I already have those. And so I don't really have to question every decision I make. I just do what I do. Like not killing somebody, not murdering people. That's just kind of it's kind of a moral issue for me. So I don't have to sit around and question that kind of thing. That's not what I'm talking about, because I didn't do that as a Christian, nor do I do that as an atheist. I don't sit around and be like, should I kill somebody today? Like, you don't think about that stuff. But like when it comes to like, should I have another drink, for example? I don't give a shit. Like, I don't have to worry about that. Like, I might ask that question because it might be like, what do I have to do tonight, or something like that. It might be a totally different, but it's not a moral issue for me. It's not like an identity issue. It's not going to affect who I am as a person. I'm not representing somebody else. So that if I fail, I've failed that person named Jesus. So like it's totally different. Like, do I feel like just jumping in the car and going for a ride? Like, I can just do that if I want. I don't have to question, well, is it the right thing to do? Is God going to be disappointed in me if I end up someplace I shouldn't be? Like, I just don't care. Like, I don't question that anymore. So anyway, so from that perspective, it's quite different, between thinking of your identity as a Christian versus your identity as an atheist. As an atheist, I'm just who I am. I don't worry about who I'm representing. It's just me. I just do what I want to do. Whereas as a Christian, my identity was found in somebody else. It was found in Christ. As Paul said, I died to myself and I live for Christ. Like everything I did had to represent Jesus. Like that was the entire goal. So I always had to worry not just about what I thought was best for me, but what I thought was best for his reputation. And that's a really stressful way to live, because sometimes you don't always have the answer. And so you have to like stress out about it. Like I remember being a youth pastor. One of the most popular questions I got from teenagers was, how far is too far, right? If I touch my girlfriend's boob, is that a sin? If I kiss her, is that a sin? If I feel aroused, is that a sin? It just became this ridiculous thing all the time, where they were always stressed out about what was best for representing Jesus. That's frustrating. So you never really get to form your own identity when you're a Christian. It gets formed for you. You get told who you're supposed to be, either by the people you're with, or the Bible you're studying, or the church leadership, or whatever, or a combination of all of them. But rarely is it just who I want to be, because who I want to be is inconsequential. It's who God wants me to be that matters. Right now, I'll just pause for a second and let you jump in there. And Dr. Spider, we see you. We're going to bring you in just a moment. If you could just put your camera on so we can see you in the background there, because we like to make sure that people we are interacting with on this particular show, we do it visibly with the people. So I see your camera, so we're going to bring you in just a second. We want to see your face as well. So
Yeah, just to let you know, we want to have a face-to-face
yeah,
conversation. So if you're not open to putting your face on camera, then this might not be the show for you.
yeah. So we hope you'll do that. So we'll give you a few minutes to think about that and pop your face up on there. If we see you on there, we'll bring you in. But I want to give Elliot a chance to chip into this conversation a little bit before we go to callers.
Yeah, you might be able to guess my position on this, if you think about it for a second. I don't think that like there is such a thing as a genuine Christian on the level of true belief. So all the things you mentioned, um, you know, I don't think people have necessarily an identity, a genuine identity as a Christian versus an identity as something else if they were to leave. Like, I am exactly the same person today that I was when I was a Christian. When I was a Christian, I was simply, you know, I wouldn't call it pretending, but I was kind of living like a hypocrite, like most Christians do. I think Christians do exactly the same things that they want to do and that they would do as atheists. They just hide it much better. So I would like ride that line wherever I could and somehow justify my actions and then try to rein it in, um, you know, to stay on God's good side. But I was doing exactly the same things as a Christian that I do as an atheist, just like more limited. Like I would limit it a lot more. So like I didn't have an identity crisis when I left Christianity. I very quickly realized that, wow, I'm exactly the same person as I was as a Christian. I'm just more honest about it now. So I didn't really have that conflict. I mean, you like we talked about last week. I experienced that freedom of leaving, and now I can do these things without the guilt. But I would challenge most Christians that you're doing these sins just as much as an atheist is. You're just justifying it and rationalizing it, whether you call it not a sin when you secretly know that it is, or you ask God for forgiveness after you do it. Um, but you're exactly the same person that I am. You're just playing a game that I'm not playing as an atheist. If that makes sense.
Right. So let me push back a little because I have a hunch that there's more differences that you express now than you did when you were a Christian than you may realize.
And I would have agreed as a Christian, but it's like my the it's like the
Well, that was
now we're
weird.
having an audio issue again. Do you notice that?
I do, and I don't know where it's coming from. Why in the world is?
Get this squared away so that
Yeah,
we can have guests in a more clean fashion. We can actually have a good conversation instead of muting ourselves every time.
no, for real. For those who were here last week, you saw that we had a lot of sound issues, and we realized after the show that it had to do with that screwed that we had on. For some reason, he kept affecting our mic, and as soon as he was gone, our issues were fixed. So can't figure out what's going on. But let's hope that doesn't continue to happen tonight.
Yeah. So anyway,
Yeah. Anyway, before we go on,
what?
just let everybody know the open room link is pinned in the comments. So make sure you guys click that and hop in. Let's have a conversation about Christianity causing an identity crisis, not and identity crisis, which is what the show seems to be called. But that was my bad typo. Anyway, Elliot, back to you. Go ahead.
Yeah, when I was a Christian, I was definitely pretending. I had tricked myself into thinking that I was like a certain type of person and that I was like a new man in Christ. But in retrospect, I came to the conclusion only after I left Christianity and broke that spell that I was exactly the same person then as I am now. And I was exactly the same person as I was back before I had that life changing experience and became a hardcore Christian. But while I was going through that, and I would have like I don't know, given my life for that belief, I would never have agreed with myself now that I was under some kind of a delusion and I was essentially playing a very advanced game. Now I can see it very clearly that I was the same person. Like there is no difference between a Christian and an atheist, like as far as their personality and their identity, except one is tricked and is playing a game, and they're engaged in some high level hypocrisy. Like they feel like they're suppressing these urges and these sins and they're living correctly and they don't want to do these things and they're staying on the straight and narrow, but they're doing all those things in secret. They're just justifying them better, and they're tricking themselves into either thinking they're not sinning or that, hey, if I do sin, God will forgive me. So I'm just going to give in to this weakness, or I'm going to give in this moment of weakness. And then tomorrow I'm going to get on my knees and ask God for forgiveness. And now I'm back and I'm cool. And like that's the height of hypocrisy. It's like you're doing exactly what I'm doing. You're just
You cut out.
you still there?
Yeah, you cut out for a minute, or I did. One of us did. I don't know what
We
happened to
both,
you.
from my perspective, we both did.
We both did. Okay,
Are you
great.
are we good now?
I think so. I didn't catch the last, like, I think word or two that you said.
That's okay. Go for it.
Okay. Um, so I'm not convinced that you are actually the same as you were as a Christian. So so to me, there's like several differences. Number one, you use the word sin. That to me is a big deal in and of itself. As a Christian, you would have thought things were sinful. You thought in terms of sin. You thought in terms of breaking God's law and offending God, um, or even when you offended somebody else, it was considered sin. Um, I don't. If I'm not mistaken, I would imagine, like me, you no longer hold to that concept of sin anymore, right?
Right.
So, um, so because that's the case, there are probably a number of things that you were inclined to not do because they were considered sinful, whereas now you would be inclined to be okay to do them or to permit others to do them without condemning them as sinful because you don't see things in terms of sin anymore because sin was related to the law of God. I mean, so go ahead. You want to say something?
Well, I would say that I still would have done those things as a Christian. I just would have found better justifications for them, or I would have relabeled them not sins. Or I mean, there's the myriad of things that you can do. You can I've heard Christians say, well, oh, that was under the law, or we're freed from sin. Now we can sin, and it's not a problem. Or they're grace believers where they kind of take Paul literally, even when he says, shall we sin that grace will abound? God forbid, but he's still sort of implying that um, more sin is more grace. We just shouldn't push it. Well, so they're like, okay, well, I won't push it, but if I do happen to do that thing, then God's grace will abound in covering that. Um, there's so many things that Christians will rationalize as not really sins, even though other Christians believe that they are, because it's their personal thing. Like, for example, let's take the classic example of masturbation. So many Christians think that is off limits. Like, you cannot do that. Sex is saved for marriage. But at the same time, other Christians will search the scriptures and not find masturbation listed anywhere. And so they're like, well, I'm free to do that. I'm not, it's not fornication because I'm not doing it with another person. So they'll continue to masturbate whenever they feel like it. And then they'll say, well, then they'll do the stumbling block trick. Like, well, it's a stumbling block for other believers. So I won't like make it public that I do it. I'll keep it hidden so it's not a stumbling block for them because they believe it's a sin. Kind of like the drinking thing. Lots of Christians drink. Lots of Christians don't drink. So the ones that do drink cover it up because they don't want it to be a stumbling block for other believers. And the classic verse is about the meats um, meats sacrificed to idols, about should we eat them or not. And Paul is like, there's no problem eating them. Don't be superstitious, but don't be a stumbling block for other believers that believe that it is a problem. So, yeah, I would have labeled these things sins and tried to not do them most of the time, but the rest of the time when I just couldn't resist, I would justify it. So I was playing a hypocrisy game.
Yes, but wouldn't you say that there is a dramatic difference between you then and you now in that at that time the reason you would play the hypocrisy game and try to hide it or try to justify it was because you were thinking in terms of representing Christ. You weren't living for yourself, you were living for somebody else. Whereas now you don't think in terms of sin anymore. You don't it doesn't like when you do those things now, you don't sit back and be like, oh, I sinned. What do I do about it? You just don't think like that. It just doesn't fucking matter to you anymore. So because you just do you. Like you're not trying to represent somebody else anymore.
But doesn't this all come down to a belief, though, rather than an identity? And I guess this is my point. Let's say you're 9 years old and you believe in Santa Claus, and I mean you believe, you're totally convinced of it, that Santa's real, and it's a big deal to you around Christmas time. And then you turn 10 and things change and you lose the belief in Santa Claus when it's no longer protected by your parents and your friends prove to you that there is no Santa. Does that throw you into an identity crisis, or do you simply move on with your life and Christmas still means just as much to you because you're still getting the presents? It's just that now they don't come from Santa. um, like in my analogy, it's the same thing going from Christianity to atheism. You realize that you're the same exact person. You're just no longer to have excuses.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a significant difference though in that with Santa, it's much like the Easter Bunny. It's another person you want to make happy, um, but it's not somebody that you represent. Like Paul was explicit in now I forget the text off the top of my head, um, but I think it's Galatians 2:20 if I'm not mistaken, um, that he says, "I no longer live, but Christ lives in me." Right. So so there's this idea of dying to self in the Christian life, like and even Paul talks elsewhere. He talks about dying daily, right? Sacrificing yourself daily. So you are supposed and again this in my mind is not necessarily how every Christian lives. So there may be Christians that are not fully invested, but if you are fully invested and you're following the teachings of the Bible, you are supposed to die to self completely. You are supposed to no longer be you at all. You're supposed to be Christ to the world. So anytime, and I've heard sermons about this all the time, I've even preached sermons like this, that anytime you encounter somebody, they should not see you, they should see Jesus through you. So
Right.
so in everything you do, you are not you, you are Christ.
Yeah, I just don't think it's possible for someone to do that.
Well, it may not be possible to do it
Well, I
completely
don't think
well.
it's possible for them to even like do it on a level of true belief. Like I've got this philosophy that like religious belief is not true belief. You're playing a game, and to pretend or trick yourself into thinking that you are representing a supernatural, invisible being that you've never met is is a delusion. It's bullshit. And so they're never going to be able to do that fully. It's always going to be on this level of, I'm working really hard to keep myself convinced that this is actually true. And so when they walk away from that belief and lose it, like because it wasn't on a level of true belief, it doesn't change who they are. It just is the throwing off of a delusion. Yeah, I mean, when I left Christianity, I kept my same IQ, kept my same personality, I kept almost everything about me, except the blinders had been taken off of my eyes. So I didn't really go through an identity crisis necessarily, having to like rebuild who I am. It was simply a subtraction of something, not a subtract. Now I need to add, or I need to ground who I am in something.
So
It was
that's
simply
interesting. It's interesting you say that because I get for me, I would actually use the exact opposite words. I would say for me it was an adding, not a subtracting, because for me Christianity subtracted everything there was about me. I was worthless, useless, worthy of nothing but eternal death. I was nothing but a worm. My best deeds were as menstrual rags. Like, I viewed myself as absolutely, completely, and utterly unworthy of a single breath without Jesus. That's the way I viewed myself. And my desire to represent somebody wasn't so much a representing of a supernatural being I couldn't see, it was Jesus, who was a material being. Of course, I don't know him, wasn't there, and I see that now. But the whole idea was that he was represented in the Bible, and so he came and displayed himself fully, so that we could be just like him in love and represent him completely and fully. So so for me, I lived Christianity as best as I could to the fullest, where I robbed myself of anything I could be as a person. Like I my intelligence didn't matter. All the knowledge I could have in this world didn't matter, no matter how much I could contribute to save the world from cancer if I was that smart. Didn't matter. All that mattered was that I was like Jesus, that I was the most loving person ever, and that people could see God through me. Like that was all that mattered for me. Um, and so I had no personal identity as an individual. I didn't know what it was like to be me until I left Christianity and no longer had this Jesus who represented this worthless, useless, utterly sinful person. And when I lost Jesus, I was standing there as this worthless, useless, utterly no good person and didn't know who the hell I was. And I was a pastor on top of that. So for me, it added to the identity crisis because now I was not only everything I could be as a Christian, but I was fully invested even as a pastor, so that I didn't even have a working knowledge of anything outside of theology. That's like all I knew and all I could contribute to the world. And in some ways that's still all I know how to contribute to the world, which is really sad. And I'm learning more as we go along, over the last couple of years, but I'm way behind the curve because of this. So my identity personally was completely and utterly linked to Jesus, so that I was nothing in and of myself. So when I left Christianity, because I was starting from utter scratch, I now had to discover who I wanted to be. Now, that doesn't mean I didn't bring some things with me, like some of the morals I had as a Christian I brought, like my favorite ones, my core values, love, integrity, freedom, and truth. You know, those correlate. There's no difference there. So sure, there's things I brought with me. Obviously I'm not going to murder people. That goes with me. But silly things like like we talked about masturbation. Like really, that was one of the things that I had to bring and be like, is this something that really matters? My judgment of the LGBT community, that was just sin. You can't be a part of it. And even though I won't condemn you, but I can't condone you. So you can live here and you can have your freedoms, but you can't get to heaven like that, right? Or if you get drunk, you're out, like things like that. So I had a lot of judgment that I had to let go of as well when I left Christianity. So sure, there were some things I brought and some things I had to let go. But ultimately, me as an individual, I had no freaking clue who I was, because as just a Christian, I was nothing. But then even as a pastor, once I lost that value as a person, I was like, what am I supposed to do with my life? Like I had no freaking clue. So I had a major identity crisis because Christianity caused that crisis by making me something that I was not necessarily as a person. So that's me, but you might want to share some more about you then in contrast to that.
Well, it makes me wonder if perhaps the whole idea of identity is simply an illusion anyway. Maybe it's just a game that we play. I don't know. I'd have to think about what identity means a lot more before I can take a harder position on that. But I'm
Well,
but I, but it
look it
makes
up.
me wonder. Like maybe it's just the game we play.
Let's look
Here's
it
the
up.
million-dollar question for you, Ellen, because we both come to the same conclusion, but independently, that a religion is a drug addiction
Yeah.
in a very real way. So then tell me this: is being a drug addict or being addicted to a drug, is that itself an identity? Or is that simply something that is more like a parasite or an illusion or something that is attached to us that we can throw off and still be the same person we were before?
So, I mean, I suppose depending on how invested you are in that addiction, it could cause an identity crisis, sure. Um, because for example, here's one of the reasons I don't like Alcoholics Anonymous, or any of the variations of it, is because it identifies you as that thing. So you go into the meeting and your first words are, "My name is Alan, and I'm an alcoholic." You're defining yourself as something, and the whole issue is that as long as you define yourself as something, it's always feeding into your mind because you're verbally saying it's always feeding into your mind that you're that thing.
Just a side note though, when you go into Alcoholics Anonymous, you identify yourself as an alcoholic. That's slightly different than being an atheist and like identifying yourself as a Christian. It's like, hey, hey, I'm Elliot and I'm a Christian. Like, even though I don't believe anymore, like it's kind of weird how AA does that.
Well, it
It's like
is, and that's my
you haven't
point.
had a
Like,
drink in like years. Why are you still calling yourself an alcoholic? Like
right, right,
you are coupling yourself with this bullshit baggage from
right,
your past. I would never call myself a Christian as an
right.
atheist.
Right. And that's the point I'm making. And I'm 100% agreeing with you. Like, we don't do that as Christians. Why do we continue to do that in Alcoholics Anonymous or in Sexaholics Anonymous or whatever version of that you go to? Like once you're free of it, why are you continuing to identify as that thing? Um, and I think one of the problems I have with it is that people continue to live in that trap for the rest of their life. So they're always addicted. So they're always identifying as that addictive person, and so they never actually free themselves from it. So every day for the rest of your life, you are an alcoholic who's just fighting your addiction. And that to me is not a healthy way to live. I think it's much better to free yourself from the addiction. And that's why I highly, highly continue every time I talk to somebody about addictions, I recommend the Alan Carr method because the easy way method is the only one that actually makes the most sense. Like he removes the brainwashing, gets rid of the addiction entirely, so you no longer have the cravings or the desires to do the thing that you were. So your identity is broken completely. So you don't have to walk around saying, my name's Alan, I'm an alcoholic, because I'm no longer an alcoholic. Like, I used to be a smoker. I could walk around saying, I'm Alan and I'm a nicotine addict, but I'm not. I no longer crave it. I have no desires. I don't get the shakes. It's gone. I can't even stand like thinking about it. It's disgusting to me, the whole habit. But once upon a time, I would have identified myself as a smoker, but I don't anymore. But if I were still addicted to it, just shaking every day the rest of my life trying to fight the habit, I'd call myself a nicotine addict who's just fighting it.
See, that's kind of why I think that identities might be a bit of of an illusion or a game because I mean you would identify yourself as a smoker, but what does that really mean? I mean, that's not who you are at all. That's just a label that has been put on you by society. Oh, well, you know, go to the smoking section or go, you know, you know what I mean? It's a social construct. It's just I mean, I'm a coffee drinker, but does that really identify who I am? Like I just have a cup in the morning.
No,
So
no, but I know where you're going with that, and here's where I'm going to just hop in real quick because yes, I agree with you, and this is why I think religion is the worst mind virus that has ever been brought to mankind. Like it is way worse than any other addiction on the planet. Because while other addictions affect just one thing in your life, it's that thing. Like I'm addicted to that thing. Christianity and religion in general does more than just make you addicted to say going to church. It messes up your whole mind. Like it makes you think and it teaches you to think things that you don't have to think. It tells you who to be, where to be, who to be with, how to live, who to love. Like it literally defines you as a human being. That's how deep that
well,
addiction
that's
goes.
what we would say as Christians, yeah.
Yeah.
And I would have said that as a Christian,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but
But if you were living like that fully, then when you left, you now had to discover who you were because you weren't allowed to think about who you were as a Christian.
that's how I realized that I was exactly the same person. In fact, that is almost like one thing that helped me deconvert was it's like there is no there when I drilled down to it, like as an identity, there is nothing there. I'm playing a game. It's an illusion. Like when it's gone, it's gone. It's like taking off a coat. Um, I'll give you another analogy. We'll stick on the addiction thing. So I recently beat a drug addiction, and I was for the last 2.5 years I was on this stuff like hardcore into it, taking it 3 sometimes 4 times a day, and it really did take over my life. Like I was using it as a huge crutch, constantly. And so about a month ago went off of it cold turkey, and I beat the addiction, and not by choice, but losing losing that felt like losing a piece of who I was, piece of myself, because I was so wrapped up in that, and like I still crave it now, but I was looking back. I'm exactly the same person that I was before I was on it, and while I was on it, and now that I'm off of it. Like I left it behind, and I'm moving on with my life. It An addiction isn't an identity, and if Christianity is an addiction, it's just not an identity. Perhaps part of the addiction is believing it's an identity. It's like Dumbo's magic feather. He knew he couldn't fly until he was given a feather and told that this feather has power, obviously Christianity, and with it you can fly. And so he oh my God, he can fly as long as he holds onto that feather. As soon as he loses it, then he falls. But it's all in his head. It's this. He has put this power into this object, just like we put this power into Christianity. But when we break the spell finally and realize this is all bullshit, we can move on without it. I mean, it's my personal opinion. Obviously, you've had the different experience, and I've met a lot of ex Christians that are on your side about this. So I am kind of taking a devil's advocate position because it's not a popular one, but yeah, I just don't see it as an identity after the fact. I would have agreed with you as a Christian, but now I'm like, it was just me growing up, and as to quote the Bible, when a man grows up, he puts away childish things.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make him a different person.
So, just for shits and giggles, because we talked about this earlier, I'm going to read the definition of identity just so we can have one from the
Okay.
dictionary. So, the first definition: the distinguishing character or personality of an individual. Um, Second thing is who someone is, the name of a person, or the relation established by psychological identification. Uh, Another major definition: the condition of being the same with something described or asserted. Third, sameness of essential or generic character in different instances, or sameness in all that constitutes the objective reality of a thing. And finally, number four definition: an operator that leaves unchanged an element on which it operates. So, but mostly um, the distinguishing character or personality of an individual. I also
Yeah,
like I
that
also
seems
like the I also like the relation established by psychological identification. That's a good
right.
definition.
So, I mean, my personality hasn't changed at all. I'm sure that yours has probably stayed the same. I mean, personality is a static factor that is largely unchangeable, no matter what stage you are at your life or what beliefs you hold.
Yeah,
Would you agree with that?
yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't think I will say that depression can severely alter a personality. Like when I went through my depression, like
Would that be
I
a
was
mood?
would that be a mood?
It might be a mood. I mean, I'm
It's
depressed a lot, but it's like depending on the time of day, your mood's going to be different. Maybe you'll be depressed in the morning, but you get a mood boost in the afternoon. I don't
Yeah,
know.
there might be different forms of depression because when I'm talking about my depression, it wasn't like sometimes in the day I felt fine and sometimes I didn't. Like it was for like the better part of a year. I was just like a totally different person, just like no life, no happiness, didn't care if I
Does that
died.
become part of your personality?
I don't know that it does permanently. It definitely altered it for a while, but when I bounced out of that finally, I it was like I came back, I revived, and as far as I can tell, I'm the same personality. I don't think of now people might say different. I don't know. I you know what I mean? Because people see you differently than you see yourself often. Um, so for me, it seems that I would say I'm the same person, same arrogance, goofy, joke around, sometimes serious asshole. I think I'm the same person, but I don't know. Maybe somebody would say I'm not. That knows me from my past, but I think I'm the same personality. So yeah, none of that has changed. So if we're defining an identity as a personality only, then yes, I would say I'm the exact same personality. But if we're defining an identity as um, as who you represent and um, and if we include morality in that, I would say I'm a
Well,
different person.
I'll tell you how I would define identity Um, and I imagine a lot of people would agree with this. It might not be accurate though, but I'll just give it a shot anyway. Identity is a static factor that cannot be changed. That is a like foundational characteristic of who you are. Like I am a straight white male. I can't change any of those three. Like that's part of at least part of my identity. And when you get into the LGBTQ uh, community, that's a really big part of like what it means to be those things is that's your identity. You can't change that. Um, uh, you get into Christian circles and they kind of attack. They like to attack people's identities and like label them and call them evil and claim that you can change them and Jesus changes them and all that crap. But I see it as a static factor. Um, now,
Can I just? I'm sorry. Can I just sidetrack you for just? I'm sorry. I hope you remember your thought. But when you said you stated a couple of things that are identities, would you not also say that calling yourself a Christian is an identity?
it's not a static factor. We have under I think under federal law or the Constitution, religion is one of the protected statuses, where you have to use strict scrutiny under Supreme Court case law if you're going to discriminate against a static factor because they claim that a static factor can't be changed. I think that's bullshit when it comes to religion. If you look at all the other static factors, they are things that can't be changed for real, like your sex or gender or your race or your age. Like these are fixed identity factors. And then they throw religion in there because they don't want religious people discriminated against. But people leave religions all the time. Um, I was a Christian, now I'm an atheist. There people will convert across religions. A lot of Muslims will become Christians and vice versa.
Well,
It is a changeable factor. It's not a static factor.
I mean, I know people who are now transgender who would have once identified themselves as straight. So that can change too, it would seem.
Transgender versus straight, I think you're might be two different things. You mean like would have identified as male but now identify as female?
No, I mean that before they realized that they felt that they were transgender, they identified as a straight person. Like that's just the way they felt. And then
Uh,
at one point in their life, they were like, "Hey, you know, I don't feel like I'm a man anymore. I'm a woman."
well, we got to be more careful with our terms. So I don't want to offend anybody. I think
Sure.
what you mean is like being gay or straight, but transgender would be transitioning from one gender to another.
No, I know. What
Which
I'm
are you talking about?
no. What I'm saying is, I think so. Earlier, we're saying that you can be a Christian and then you can not be a Christian, and I'm saying that there are people who are now changed their gender because they at some point in their life thought, "Hey, I don't feel like who I am anymore," and they changed their gender. But prior to that, growing
I'm
up, they thought that they were
right. I'm gonna make a big assumption here, and feel free anybody to correct me if I'm wrong. But I don't think that I have ever met somebody a transgender person who has changed their gender and would say necessarily that they would have identified when after they transition. They say I was always this. Now I'm consistent. Now my gender identity is consistent with who I always was, or who I always were. Um, maybe it's a maybe we
yeah,
should find a better analogy.
I'm, yeah. I mean, I guess we can try to find a better analogy because I'm pretty certain that I've actually talked to transgender people who once thought they were straight and now they consider themselves transgender only because time changed that over, you know, they realized something different about themselves. And it could have been because they were suppressed at one point to think what they were allowed to think. Um, Much like leaving Christianity. I mean, it would be the same. In a sense, it would be the same because
Well,
you were
like
suppressed.
for every gay person that I've met, they almost. I mean, I can't. I've never met anybody that said, "Hey, when I used to identify as straight, and when I identified as straight, I was straight." It's always been a case of like I never was straight. I was pretending. I came to realize that I wasn't straight, and now I'm consistent with who I really am. It's to them, it's a static factor. It's like
Sure, and
I
no,
was born.
I mean, I can understand that, like at this stage, that's the way they think, but at that time in their life, they didn't realize that.
Maybe. but it's almost like a Christian doctrine that people can change their sexuality. I mean, we have gay conversion therapy is a Christian thing
Right.
because they believe you can change your sexual orientation. And I think the science is pretty clear that you can't. You're born a particular way, and that's who you are. It's a static factor, and so I think religion is the redheaded stepchild that stands out amongst the static factors that the government recognizes as the one that gets changed the most often and should not be included in protected classes.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
as an atheist, I don't believe religion should be a protected class.
Right.
That's to me, that's common sense. Like, I don't, why are the beliefs in your head making you special? Where, oh, we can't discriminate against you based on that. Well, you can believe some pretty fucked up things. I mean, I could believe in suicide bombing or jihad, or I could believe pedophilia is perfectly fine, and I could build a religion around these things, and these do lots of harm to society. But and what now you're supposed to respect all of that? I mean, Christianity, claims to be moral, but it has a lot of aspects that are verifiably, demonstrably immoral.
Right.
So, like, why should we respect that as a protected class? It's completely different from being a Caucasian or being a certain age.
Yeah. All right. So to bring this full circle, you're defining then identity as things that are not things that are not static.
Things that are an identity is something that's not changeable. It's a static factor. Like I said, I am a straight white male and I'm 43 years old. I can't
So
change
things that
any
are
of those.
things that are static, not dynamic.
Are static. If it's dynamic, yeah, I would question. There's one way to define identity. If it's changeable, I would question whether it's actually part of your identity. Like, is your job part of your identity? Yes. You might call yourself a postal carrier, but that can change. I mean, if it was part of your identity, you wouldn't be able to change it. You'd always be a postal carrier, but it's not. I mean, that
So, but to my point earlier, so let's just say that that I'm wrong about the straight and then transgender concept, but in theory, what I'm saying could apply in some cases, and let's just say it can apply in Christianity, because when I was a Christian, I never in a million years thought there was ever a chance that I would be an atheist, dude. That was the furthest thing from my mind. I was a Christian as Christian gets. Like there was no I'm a postman today, but sure, things change and maybe someday I'll be a CPA. I know that about jobs. I know that about jobs. Like I know things change. Like, do I suspect this will be my career? I do, sure. And I may be but I also know things go south. I've lost many jobs, I've gained many jobs, it's just the way life goes. When I was a Christian, that wasn't on the radar. That wasn't even an option. There was no, I know I'm a Christian today, but maybe tomorrow I'll be an atheist. That wasn't a thought process. I was a Christian. That I was a Christian. Like there was
me
no
too.
question.
Me
I
too.
knew it 100%.
Right.
And there was nobody was ever going to change my mind on that. I knew it 100%. So in my mind, I identified as a Christian, and there was no possible way you could convince me otherwise until I left. And then I'm like, oh shit, I'm not a Christian. But that, like, even until that very moment on that prayer walk I've talked about, like, till that moment, you still couldn't have convinced me that I wasn't going to be a Christian 3 minutes later. Like, it just wouldn't have happened. Like, I would have been like, wait, man, not a chance. I'm going on my prayer walk. That's just, it's mind blowing, but that's how certain I was. And so I can tell you 100%, I identified as a Christian, so much so that it ruled my entire life. Every decision I made was, so the links are in the chat and in the info. I actually got it right tonight. So go ahead and click it and hop in the room. We would love to chat with you. Just make sure you got your camera on because we like to have visual conversations. We have other shows on Skeptic Haven that you can just call and not have to show your face, but this one is unique in that way. So we would love to have you be a part of it. So jump in and let's talk. But to answer Elliot's question, so um, repeat your question, your first question again. I'm sorry.
So when you left Christianity, you had an identity crisis.
Yeah.
What did that look like? How did you rebuild your identity? And what does your identity look like now? So kind of like a timeline of you leave Christianity, where what happened?
Sure. So when I left Christianity, in that very moment, standing on the driveway of my parents' house as I was about to go on my prayer walk, I just woke up. It literally was it was like a death. I'll be honest. I can fairly remember, though I wouldn't say vividly in this particular instance, um, but I can fairly recall this feeling of my life flashing before me. It's kind of like people say they experience right before they die if they know they're going to die. And it was that kind of a feeling. I remember thinking through everything in my life because it was like I woke up from this, well, from the Matrix is what it was. I literally woke up from this stupor. And I was like, what in the world am I doing? I wish I could describe to a Christian what this feels like because I have a feeling a lot of non-Christians who have escaped know what I'm talking about. You may know this feeling, I don't know, but I'm sure there's others who know it. But you wake up in that moment and you're just like I don't know how else to describe it other than you feel like you just woke up from a dream. Cause like you were in it so fully and then you're just like, what am I doing? And I, for me anyway, it was a no brainer. It was in that very moment I said to myself, and I said it out loud. I said, I'm an atheist. I couldn't even believe I said the words, but I just knew it right there because there was no question for me. I mean, I was reasonable and logical enough of a person to realize that if I was no longer a theist, I was an atheist. Like to me, the bridge was just like that. It didn't take me this long process. I just knew you're one or the other. I had no question about it. So it was simple for me. But I knew right then in that moment, God was gone. I was just like, what am I doing? There's no God to talk to. There's no reason to believe this God exists. It was just, and because I knew so much scripture at the time, that all of the scripture started to flow through my mind too, like all the fallacies, all the contradictions, all the horrible texts. I was just like, why have men been defending this God? Like, what am I doing? Like, it was just like the sick. I almost wanted to throw up. You know, it was just a sickening thing. I was just like 42 years old, and I was just like, I was, what am I doing? I cannot believe I just spent this whole life doing this. And and also, as I was expressing earlier, because I had no value left to myself because I had drained myself of any value. I would act, very arrogant and tough and proud and whatever because I was just like I was a very confident person, but I was confident because I was confident in Christ. I had so much confidence in God and in Jesus that like I came across to people as though I could conquer the world because I really believed I could. Like I actually was the kind of person that believed I was invincible until Jesus decided otherwise. Like nothing was going to happen to me. I could have jumped off the Empire State Building if God wanted me alive. I would live. Like there was nothing that could touch me. Um, that's how confident. So I came across as an arrogant person, but I was just confident because of Jesus. Well, that was gone. Like, which is why I fell into like an immediate I mean, I was already pretty depressed. Um, and this was me coming out of my depression, going through all of this therapy with my therapist. And in that moment, I was just like, what the heck? So I went through another dip at that moment. Like, I was just like, wow. And I didn't know who I was. And I was standing on the precipice of utter darkness. Like, where do I go from here? I knew nothing about the world. I knew nothing about science. I didn't know how anything worked. The one thing I did know in that very moment was there is nobody coming to rescue me. I was like, I am just on my own here. And I realized I have to do something about my life or I'm just going to end up dying because there's nobody coming to rescue. There's no God out there caring for me. I was just like, all of this has been a facade. So, so yeah, I was like rattled to my core, man, not knowing what I was going to do with my life. Um, and like
Yeah,
I've expressed,
I just since you're on a three-part journey here. I just want to interject real fast. Comment on that. You mentioned thinking you could jump off the Empire State Building and God would protect you. Yeah, I found that when I was going through my experience as well, like I realized afterwards that I was in a really dangerous position with that same exact kind of thinking. Like this is one of the dangers of this extremely strong delusion. Like I was a correctional officer in a maximum security prison, really terrible place. And at one point I believed that like God was supernaturally protecting me and I had so many people praying for me that I had the thought in my mind I could walk right through the middle of a prison riot unscathed. I really believed that. And that's extremely dangerous mindset to be in as a Christian. You think you're Superman. You think that God is in control and you're divinely protected. And that could, in fact, and has caused a lot of people to do very risky things and come to a very quick end that was not pleasant because they thought that God was protecting them. Um, Lots of missionaries have met a fate at the hands of an indigenous population because they thought God had sent them on a mission. They
Yep.
just sacrificed their lives for nothing. So it's very dangerous to be in that mindset. And then also when I came out of it, I had the same feeling that like I'm on my own. God's not coming to save me. And you go from one extreme to the other. Like I'm untouchable. I'm under God's divine protection to holy shit, there's nothing there. Anything can happen. I could be in a lot of trouble. And it's a very humbling experience to go from I'm Superman to I'm just a fucking ant and I better watch my step.
Yep. No, you make it. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Everything you just expressed. So yeah, I mean, when I said jump off the Empire Step, like I would distinguish it the way you just did. Like I would never have said I'm going to jump off the Empire and believe God protect me because I always knew I was like, well, that's just suicide. I would know better than that. God, God just the way natural laws work. But in your example, it's more apropos because like if I was on top of the Empire State and somebody pushed me, for example, then I might feel invincible because it wasn't anything I chose to do, but God, God could always do anything and he would always intervene and make sure that I'm alive as long as he wanted me to be. So to your example, that's more appropriate than saying I would jump. But I was just kind of throwing out an analogy. But yes, thanks for clarifying that because that was kind of a key thing. So
Well, I
yes,
mean,
you
we do things that are similar to jumping off the Empire State Building on
sure.
faith. I mean, I know you were being metaphorical, but like, let's take for example, I mean, we've got the one example of I forget his name, but I share a part of his name. Elliot, was it Jim Elliot that went down to Central America and he
Uh,
got killed,
yeah.
and that was in the 70s, and then recently in the last decade we had a guy who took a boat out to Sentinel Island in the Indian Ocean, thinking he was going to be the first guy to witness to the uncontacted tribes, and they fucking killed him immediately. So, like, I mean, that was jumping off the Empire State Building for sure.
Yep. No, it certainly is. And Christianity has this way of making you think, especially American Christianity, think that you have the only right message for the world and you have to go and save other populations and just like you're completely and utterly um, disturbing their way of life and you think that you're just going to like swoop in there and God's going to protect you because
Yeah.
you're telling the message.
Well, and it's even more close to home. I have a very good friend who decided to be a missionary and in America, and he dragged his family around the country trying to pull this off. And one of his stops that he tried to set up a mission in was Detroit, Michigan. And on the weekends after church, he would literally take his family down to the ghetto to witness to the homeless people. And like he knew that this was extremely dangerous, and he would go with a gun for protection. And he obviously thought that God was going to look after his family. I'm like, dude, you have small children and a wife, and God is sending you to the ghetto in Detroit. Like, this is a perfect example of, hey, let's take some risks because God's looking out for us. So I mean, it doesn't have to be a tribe in the jungle. It could be right down the block doing stupid shit.
Nope, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Um, well, anyway, so back to where I was going then. So maybe what I was describing as a dip into depression probably wasn't so much a dip into depression now that I'm thinking about it, as much as it was a dip into the five stages of grief. Like I went through a major stage of anger That's probably more a way to describe it. Cause, cause yeah, when I woke up, I, I was pissed. I mean, I was utterly pissed that I had
Who
been
were you
living
pissed
this.
at? Anything in particular? Were you mad at yourself? Were you mad at the church? Were you mad at your parents?
I was mad at everything. Yes, I was mad at the lie, number one. Um, I was mad at my parents, yeah, because I was like, why didn't they do this? Like, why did it take me to wake up? Like, why is my whole family still into this? Like, it was just so yeah, I was pissed at that. Um, but yeah, but I mean, mostly I think I was pissed at myself that it took me 42 fucking years to wake up. Like, seriously? 42 years, dude. Like, we live one fucking life, man. And half of mine was lived doing this lie. Like, and I felt like I should have known better. You know, I can't, I still sometimes can't believe that it took me that long. Cause I, like, I mean, I'm a very reasonable,
It's a
logical
long
person.
time.
Like, yeah, it's a long time, dude.
Yeah,
I don't, I,
and
I
and,
still
and
sometimes
and
can't
most
understand.
most people come out earlier.
Yeah.
Like it was 35 for me. I sort of envy the 20 some year olds that find their way out. I'm like, okay, but maybe we needed to. Maybe staying in it longer served as a better vaccination against bullshit because we really had to work up to it. And I mean, it wasn't like we got the usual average dose of it and then saw through it right away and walked away. Like we really had to fall deep into it. And the deeper you go into something like that, the more skittish you're going to be in the future of scams and lies.
No, you're absolutely right
Well, that's
about
been
that.
my experience anyway.
No, you're 100% right about that. Like, I'm as skeptical as they get now. Some people in my life get very annoyed with me because I question everything now. Like, you can't pull anything over my eyes. I'm not about to fall into that crap again.
Yeah,
So,
and I was having this conversation today with my one of my mail carriers because today is election day. It's not the general election, but it's the primary, and we both work at the post office, you and I, and so we both have to deal with political mail, and there's a lot of political mail, tons of money being poured into supporting one candidate or another, or referendum, or for or against it, and we live in an era. I was talking to her about this because we were both pissed at all of the political mail we've had to deal with for the last several months. And I told her, I'm like, we live in a time when it is so hard to determine fact from fiction that you got to do a deep dive on every candidate and a deep dive on every issue before you vote. Or the alternative, and this is a heuristic that works really well, it's a shortcut. You simply fall back on general principles. And like, to use the election for example, I'm like, okay, if I am not smart enough or knowledgeable enough to figure out these issues, what is a general principle, a principle of skepticism or rationality that I can use to apply to this to decide how to vote? And like the one that I used was, where is the money coming from, and is it trying to change something that has been long established? And if there is new tremendous amounts of money trying to change a law or change the Constitution, I should immediately be skeptical of why they're trying to do that. And I should probably default, using the null hypothesis, just default to being against it. Like, if you don't understand it and it's a big change and there's a lot of special interest money behind it, you should probably just oppose that. And I know that would likely catch some good things in there as well and be against some good things that might change things for the better. But just as a general principle, it's like you should be skeptical of why somebody with a lot of money is wanting to change the law. And if you don't know the details, you just automatically default to being against it. And it's not one side of the aisle or the other. It's just a general heuristic. So sorry about that sidetrack.
that's all right. I share the
But
frustration.
in a world of bullshit, and you can't tell what's true. Like you have to fall back on like general principles of rationality and skepticism,
Yeah.
and we can do that better because of our experiences.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. You're absolutely right. Um,
So
Yeah.
you found yourself down in that hole.
So yeah, so I mean, I was angry with myself, but I mean, I think ultimately I was just angry with the religion itself. Like I think it just the whole religion, like just Christianity itself, the whole lie that it was. It just because now it's like it's just become a mind virus. It's just taken on a life of its own. It doesn't require anybody pushing it. It's just now it just exists and permeates our culture, and it's just like it's almost like you can't stop it. It just continues to spread like a disease, you know, and it just really pissed me off that like so many people are caught up in this thing. And I remember like some of the counseling I was getting from my my parents' pastor and their counselor, Christian counselor, you know, about my life and how I screwed it up because I wasn't honoring to God and blah blah blah. And just kick me while I'm down. You know what I mean? It was just like it was just horrible. So yeah, I had a lot of anger and it it cycled through the different stages of grief, but mostly anger. That one just kept coming back. That one still comes back from time to time. Um, but uh, but at any rate, I knew I had to do something with my life. I knew that I wasn't. There was no rescue coming. There was no God anymore. I realized the pastor part of my life that was gone, and that was my biggest identity. That's what I was. I didn't know how to be anything else, man. Like literally since I was 20 years old and even 18 years old, working as an intern at my youth pastor's youth ministry. From 18 on, all I've ever known is working in ministry as a pastor. That's it. That was my whole life. So I didn't know how to be anything else. I didn't know what to do. I've never worked, I never, aside from when I was like, 16-year-old, worked at Kmart, for a couple of years or whatever. That was it. But I didn't know anything about working in the secular world. And I didn't know anything about relationships or how to date because, I was with one woman my whole life, basically, just my ex-wife. We got married young. I was 22. We met when I was 20, I think, 19 maybe. Um, so like, I was like, how do you live this life, man? I was like, so I had to just basically pick myself up. I wasn't going to get the teaching from my family on how to live as a non-Christian. So that was not going to help me. So now I was here just trying to figure things out. I had to basically just self-educate myself. I had to just start over and be like, all right, man, I you gotta figure out what you're gonna do with your life. I tried a couple different career possibilities, tried to start my own business. None of it worked out, and then fortunately, I had the USPS to fall back on, and eventually, I started to like that more because I think it just became realistic to me. Because up until then, it was just a job that I was doing temporarily until I got back on my feet and became a pastor again. That was my
Oh,
mentality.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, I was 100% thinking to be a pastor and plant another church. Like that was, like I said, that's literally all I knew how to be. So then, I was like, well, that life's over. So I might as well embrace who I am now and, USPS. So I just came to love it. I decided to become really good in it and excel. And I, became very good at my job and I really like it.
And
And it's
that,
fun.
ironically, that's the advice I would give anybody who's trying to start over, like who's lost a career. Is I would tell them to go work for the government,
Yeah.
especially the post office, because unfortunately, they'll hire just about anybody
Yeah.
and give you a shot.
Yeah. Well, now
I,
when I got the job, it was way different. Um, 8 years ago, whatever, 5 years, 6 years ago, whatever it was way different. Like they were like becoming a rule carrier. You had to like take this intense test and pass it. Like you had to study this for like 5 minutes and then get all these
oh
answers
yeah,
right.
yeah,
And then you had
not
to go
like
through
that anymore.
interviews. It was rough. Now they'll take anything with two legs. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
no, it's a double-edged sword. Like I'm on my fourth government job in a row right now with the post office, and I was a correctional officer. Then I worked for the Census Bureau, and then the TSA, and now the post office. And it, I know this isn't about religion, but it's interesting that government jobs are very easy to get, and when you get them, you realize how wasteful they are and how much you're not doing anything for your money. But boy, that'll help you get you back on your feet because they will hire in a non-discriminatory fashion. So just a life pro tip for anybody watching: work for the
agreed.
government.
Agreed. Do it because
Use government wastefulness for your own benefit.
Yep. I mean, you're going to get the best possible pension you're going to get at this late in the game. Best salary you're going to get, this late in the game, unless you're, especially if you're a pastor. Like if you already have like a secular type degree and a career, you're unlikely to lose that just because you leave Christianity. But if you lose your job, like I did, well, not because of Christianity, but a lot of pastors will because of this. But if you do, like you don't have very many options. Like unfortunately, Masters of Divinity doesn't get
Right.
you very far in the world. Nobody gives a shit about that degree. Oh wow, you know the Bible. Great. It's not doesn't do a whole lot unless you have a
Well,
very special expertise like Josh Bowen.
the degree won't transfer into an actual career, but the social skills might.
Yeah, I mean, sure, but you have to build a reputation again, and that takes time.
Yeah.
You have
But
to
you've got
start
the
over.
soft skills,
Yeah,
as they call them.
yeah, you have to start again, but it takes a long time to rebuild for sure. But anyway, to Elliot's point, yes, USPS I highly recommend to anybody that transitions and doesn't know what to do with their life. It's a great place to go and get in easily and build a
Well,
build a career.
get in while you can, because the rumors are that the post office is being purposefully dismantled little by little. Things are running more and more inefficiently, and we're losing a lot of money. So
Yeah, well, that's not
now's
really
the
a
time to lock that job down.
that's not really a pep talk to get a man.
Well, yeah, it is. It's like it's the get right with God before it's too late. Hire on with the post office before they
before
start eliminating jobs.
before they break down and you lose yet another job because you have nothing left to give and they
Well, it depends on what your craft is and if you can get in with the union. I mean, they can't lay you off if the union has any say in it, but they
there you
can
go.
if you're a temporary employee.
Right. Well, that's true. And I am in with the union, so yes, I'm safe. So yes, it's yeah. So anyway, it's a good position, but I was thinking about this the other day, and I found this really amazing. Do you know the last two words I heard as a theist? My last two words that I ever heard as a theist was
From like, in what context? From somebody telling you these words, or you reading them? Like, how do you hear them?
they were from an app on my phone. It was my jogging app, and I was about to go out for another run because I was trying to learn how to get to a 5K. And the very last two words that I heard in my ears from the lady on the app before I became an atheist were begin warm up. That was it. And about 1 minute later, I became an atheist. And that is mind blowing to me because I was like, wow, that's just kind of fascinating. It was almost like a preemptive statement to prepare myself for the next life. Begin your warm up because this is it.
Okay.
Um, so I just thought that was kind of cool as I was thinking about that. The last couple of days, I was like, man, my last two words is theist were begin warm up. Um,
You know
anyway,
that's interesting, because I didn't have any last words when I came out, but I remember the words that got me in.
oh
So kind
yeah,
of the opposite side of the fence. I was reading in Romans. I think it was Romans. I want to say the end of chapter 9 and into chapter 10, but it was a very specific Bible. The format was such that this lined up perfectly. So if I had been reading any other Bible in any other translation, this was the New American Standard. Um, so any other book, this wouldn't have happened. But I read down to the end of chapter 9, and it said, "And he who believeth in him shall not be disappointed." And I noted that as being extraordinary verse, a promise. And then I read down into chapter 10, and then boom, right there in on the page, in word for word, spelled out again. Paul repeats, "And he who believeth in him will not be disappointed." And like it was like he was talking directly to me, and he's like, "Hey, you didn't quite hear me. Let me say it again." And I just went to pieces. I was like, "Oh my God,
huh?
this is confirmation right here." That's how I got into Christianity. And it
Interesting.
turned out that it was a fucking lie.
Yeah,
Completely.
Yeah, super interesting. Well, I did not use those two words to get me out because I had no idea those two words were doing anything for me at the time. It was only thinking back that I was like, "What the hell? Those were my last two words." It's kind of fascinating. But yes, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm sorry you read the Bible, man. It's funny because the Bible got you in and the Bible got you out.
Well, let's be honest. The Bible got, well, if we really want to be accurate, my parents got me in, my logic got me out.
Right
But
on.
yeah, the Bible can get you in and out depending on how you read it.
Yeah.
It is an extraordinary book, but completely unnecessary. Like if we burned every single one in the world, we would have lost nothing and probably gained a better future.
Oh, I have no doubt the world would be a better place without the Bible and any religious book. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because there's nothing we don't know that we can't be better with without the Bible. Like, the Bible contributes nothing to our morality, nothing that we can't figure out without it. But it certainly
So,
has caused plenty of harm.
and a case in point, I know this is fiction, but man, this is some powerful fiction if you look at it correctly. I was watching the Book of Eli yesterday, and the premise of the movie is that this guy is in a post-apocalyptic environment, and he has in his possession a King James Bible, and you find out throughout the movie that it's like the only one left on Earth, and he comes across the warlord in this town in the wasteland who is searching desperately for a Bible, and he says to him, like, that book has power. I need that power. You know it has power because they burned them all after the war. And now we need it so that we have the right words to build these people's faith up and give them something to live for. And I'm watching this, I'm like, holy shit, this is some powerful imagery here, because clearly in this movie, in that timeline, like religion had caused a nuclear apocalypse, and they realized it was so dangerous they had to burn all these fucking Bibles so it wouldn't happen again. And then now that you've been reduced to rubble and you need to rebuild, those stories have power. And it was almost like a a like we're trying to rise above our nihilism and we need a story to keep going. And if we don't have it, we're going to keep living in chaos. I was like, yeah, stories are very important for humans to use as a metaphorical substrate. But we're using the wrong stories. Like the Bible is the wrong fucking story. Like the first thing you need to do is realize that the story doesn't have to be true. You don't have to see it as true. You could still use the metaphors and use the messages from these stories. Like we have entire fandoms built around different fictional stories. Like no Star Wars fan thinks that story actually happened, but like they build a lot of lore around that, a lot of their personal life. They're huge super fans of it, but they don't have to believe that it actually happened. You take the Christian, for example, they have to believe that shit's real. And when you believe it's real, you're going to be forced to follow the destructive parts. You can never take a step back and say, well, let's remember it's just a story and we probably shouldn't follow it down this road. You can't do that. And that's why the Bible is so dangerous and destructive. It's because it's meant to be taken as true, as far as I can tell, and they do take it as true. But if we built our society around better stories, higher quality stories that we recognize are fiction so that they can be ignored when we need to ignore them, we'd have a better future.
Yep. No, I agree
Thanks for
totally.
coming to my TED Talk.
To your Elliot talk. We're gonna call the Elliot talk. I love when you get on rants, dude. Sometimes you fucking crack me up. You get so adamant. It's funny as shit.
No problem.
Anyway, there may be people who want to know, hey, how do you rebuild after you've gone through what you went through? Because they may have gone through it too. So I better finish my story now, so I don't
Well,
leave
yeah,
it.
yeah, and that movie is a good analogy for your story, because like those people found themselves in a trying to rebuild a town in the wasteland after they had lost everything, and like the choice was, hey, let's find a Bible and rebuild on that, or let's find something else and rebuild on that. in a better future. So you're essentially at that low point, living in a metaphorical wasteland, trying to figure out how to rebuild your town.
Well, that's where I was. So before I go into that, the human Tommy, you asked how long you guys going because he's thinking about hopping in. Um, just hop in. We'll go probably another 30, 40 minutes. So if you hop in, so go ahead and do that. If nobody hops
Yeah,
in,
we'll go to 2 hours. Yeah,
yeah,
we're at 121 right now. We'll go to two.
yeah. So hop in if you want to chat. We'd love to talk with you. So hit that link. Um, so for me, so here I am. I'm in this wasteland, like you say, like darkness, and we're not knowing what to do. Went through a lot of anger, and I think I realized I knew nobody was coming to rescue me, but so the first thing I needed to do was continue to heal. Like I knew that I had to put my own life back together. Like all the praying in the world wasn't going to fix anything anymore. Because that's what I was doing. I was going to prayer walks, prayer runs, pray, because God was going to fix me. Never did. So I just decided, screw that. I'm done praying. Time to pull my bootstraps up and just figure out what I'm going to do. So I started working out really, hard. Continued to run. Started to get in shape. Got on some dating apps and started, dating and doing my own thing. Um, and what I decided to do though for a while is I just went underground. Like I didn't I didn't need to be public for a while. I wanted to just figure out who I was because I had no idea. Because I like I said, all I was a pastor. No longer a pastor. I'm no longer a Christian. Who the fuck am I? So so I just decided to just chill for a bit, go on dates, eat what I want, go where I went to bars, enjoyed some new drinks that I've never tried before, played a lot of shuffleboard, did whatever, just did anything that I wanted to do just to experience the world in a way that I was never allowed to growing up. Um, so I did anything and everything that I wanted to do. And I'm glad I did because man, I got a lot of shit out of my system that I regretted not being allowed to do when I was growing up and into my 20s, man.
I won't put you on the spot, but man, I'm curious.
Yeah, well, I mean, just if you can imagine it, I probably did it. So,
Well,
that's
that's a pretty wide range of activities, my friend.
hey, just saying, dude. I mean, I went wild, man. I was the dude who was just like deprived of everything my whole life, man. Suppressed every
Did you
natural desire I
did
ever
you
had.
ever mainline heroin?
No, okay, so no, I didn't do that. Drugs wasn't a thing for me.
Did you
I
ever
don't.
did you go skydiving?
I did. Well, I did that when I was 30 anyway. Even as a Christian, I did that.
Oh,
So
okay. Yeah, that's not really something that's sinful.
yeah, yeah. So I went
Yeah.
skydiving. So I
I
definitely.
gotta think in the sin department.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Like once the sin category was gone, I was just like, wow, I get to just enjoy stuff and not worry about sin. Um,
Well,
but no, drugs
it
just.
really kind of I know I keep interrupting, and you're never
I
gonna
did
get the answer.
marijuana if that helps, but I didn't like it
Okay. Well, if you think about it, like there's really only one major category where Christianity represses people's activities, and that's around like revolves around sex. It's very interesting that like religion just might be a way originally to control reproduction.
for sure.
Yeah, because like most of the other sins, Christians will find a way to justify them in some way. So I guess it all comes down to sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's. I mean, it's true for a large part. Yeah. Um, no, you're right. I mean, that was a big part of it. Sex, types of sex, what you want to do. I mean, that was a biggie. But yeah, I mean, even being willing to try drugs like marijuana, because before that, I never would even do it. I was always afraid what it would do to me. But at the end of the day, I just didn't like it. I was like, this shit sucks. It
Yeah.
just, I don't like the way it makes me feel. So it's just
It's too
drugs.
bad because they just don't have a lot of illegal drugs available, do they?
Yeah, no, but
One of the few.
it's just not my thing for some reason. I just don't enjoy it. I don't like the way it makes me feel. Um, but anyway, that's that. But so I did that for a long time, and then of course through all of the dating and all hanging out with all these girls, whatever, I ended up meeting Ray through an app as well, and she was a totally different type of relationship, one that was more in line with a long term type of relationship, and so once we got together, it was like, all right, well, I did all that other shit. Now it's time to settle down again because I really like this girl and I think she's great and she's got two kids and I want kids and So here I am. So we decided to get together, and that was another thing that mattered. You know, like you have to be married as a Christian to move in together, or at least my version of Christianity. We didn't have to. We just said fuck it. We just moved in. Boy, that was a big. That was like one of the first in my family to do that. Like everybody was just like, "What are you doing?" That was a huge shock to the family system. That was biggie, man. And you know, of course, any problems that would ever happen were because we weren't married. That was the big thing. Any problems your kids are having, that's because you're not married, you know. That was always that was like, oh my gosh, you guys, so
So
frustrating.
I can sympathize on that one because I moved in with my wife exactly 1 month before we got married, and I was told by my mom that I had brought shame upon the family, and she didn't know how to explain this to her siblings and the extended family, and like now it was, yeah, it's just total bullshit.
It is. And you know, we didn't care whether we were married or not. I mean, we're committed. I'm not going anywhere. So for us, marriage was just a thing that would only take place if it benefited us financially, you know, when
Right.
we came to the government. And at some point it did. She needed it because of insurance. And so we were like, well, we're getting married. So we got married. My family still doesn't know we're married to this day because I don't care to make an issue of it. It just doesn't matter to me. Hey, Tommy, we see you. We'll bring you in just a second. It's just, you know, it just doesn't matter to me. You know, and my family is always like, well, you need to get married. That's the right way. It's what God wants. And I'm like, I don't care what your God wants. Why don't you understand this? Like, it just, like, I'm not, if I said, I'm like, if we ever do get married, it's not going to be for the reasons you think. So I don't care to tell them. I've made plenty of hints, plenty of statements. I've even posted it online on my recent Facebook posts about, you know, going on our honeymoon to Punta Cana, and they still haven't picked up on it because I don't think they think we're married because we didn't have this big ceremony. But
Right.
whatever. I mean, I honestly don't care. Um, but anyway, so long story short, because we got Tommy and I want to bring him in. So I did that for a number of years, just with Ray, just built a life here. We learned together, we grew together. I learned a lot from her on how to raise kids. Her and the kids are a primary reason why I evolved so quickly in my thinking in regards to things like accepting the LGBT community and understanding things properly about sexuality and on how to raise kids and the models we learned and why spanking a kid is not actually a good idea. We used to think it was because that's what we were taught growing up. Like just so many things, and I was like, it was like overload. Like I just wow, and fast hyper speed. It's like they raised me in a way, which is kind of sad, but I came a long way with. So anyway, and then Jen Fishburne came into my life again because her and I used to be friends, and we ended up talking and she was like, "Hey, you want to get back into the world again and help people out? And let's come on my channel and do an interview." I was like, "Why the hell not?" And that's where it all started. So I went back on and did a show, and from there I was like, "Well, I did it now. I'm in the public eye, so I've got to figure out what I'm going to do." And so I started studying hard, listening to every possible show and debate I could and listen to the science and Forrest Valkai. I am so grateful for Forrest Valkai. I freaking love that guy. He has taught me so much. And I feel like I have a better grasp on how the world works because of him and also a lot of the other guys that I listen to. So anyway, so that's a very, very fast version. I've wrapped up the end, but I want to bring in our guests so that we can talk with them. Tommy,
Yeah,
welcome
let's do it.
to the Deconversionists, man. Glad to have you. What's up?
Hey, how's it going, guys? Good to be here.
Thanks for being with us.
I'm actually here an echo of myself.
What a surprise.
I know, man. That has been a problem for us for the last 2 weeks now, and we cannot fix it.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's all right.
And it just happened like last week.
I'm going to
So
have
it obviously
contact-
is something that can be fixed because it hasn't been.
I'm going to contact
That's-
StreamYard and figure out what's going on because this is not, there's nothing we're doing different on our end, and I can't for the life of me figure out what it is.
So if we mute ourselves, then he shouldn't be able to hear himself.
Yeah,
with
we'll just
feedback.
do what we did last week.
We'll go in and out.
Yeah, well,
Oh,
when you want to talk, just start talking, and I'll mute mine. All right, Tommy, go for it, man. Tell us what you got.
Yeah, no problem. I guess I don't mind
mind
hearing my voice too much, but yeah, it did go away once you two muted. But yeah, let's see, on the spot now. Yeah, sorry, I wasn't hearing too much of what you were saying like right now because I was getting my stuff set up, so I wasn't necessarily listening in. But yeah, been wanting to hop on with you guys for a while because like normally like Tuesdays don't really work very well for me, but ended up being free today, because I know Alan, I think like you recently, like we became friends on Facebook, and Elliot, I actually saw your interview with Neil, the 604 atheist, and like heard a lot of your story, and like heard a lot of similarities, a lot of not so similar things. Like I was personally not waterboarded at 3 or 4 years old. That was, but I did. You are one of the only other people I've met kind of outside the church I grew up in who also grew up in what is officially regular Baptists. Like I remember, like when I found that out, that was the actual name of our denomination, was Regular Baptist. I thought that was the funniest fucking thing in the world. But then now growing out of it, I was like, wait, did I remember that correctly? Did I make that up? So hearing you actually say that that was a real thing, that was a little reassuring. So I wasn't losing my mind, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's called General Association of Regular Baptist Churches. It's GARB for the acronym.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't know there were that many of them around, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. How long were you a Christian for?
Oh, probably about, I mean, depending on when you measure, like a child is like cognizant enough to really realize. Well, basically I was born into it, and then deconverted when I was 38. So coming up on, it'll be at least as far as like officially becoming an atheist, I guess it'll be 5 years this October. So
very nice. Yeah, 7 or 8 for me. So I guess the $1 million question, like for everybody, is like, what was the last straw? Like, what actually took you out of it? Was it one thing? Was it a variety of things? Did it like stack up over time? Or was it like, that's it, like this does it for me, now I can't call myself a Christian? You just turn the corner on it.
What were the last 2 words you heard as a theist?
Well, I guess it was, if anything, you might say it was the last 2 words I said as a theist, was essentially telling God, show up, or I'm waiting, or something like that. I mean, as I'm sure you could probably guess, like for a lot of people, it's a very long story. But I'd say, like I said, grew up pretty conservative Christian, and probably was still pretty like very like fundamentalist, until maybe like mid to late 20s. Then I started getting maybe like a little more just different flavors of evangelical, like maybe a little more charismatic or whatnot, but then started heavily deconstructing when I was maybe like 34, 35. But then I guess the magic year, 2021, when I was shortly after turning 38, was diagnosed with cancer. It ended up being stage 4 melanoma, if anyone's familiar with that one, a particularly nasty one. Then ended up going into full remission, and have been in remission for almost 5 years now. It'll actually be just next month. But it was basically coming off that experience, having already kind of like been reevaluating and rethinking everything. Just get to that point of going through a situation like that, and like, kind of being pretty sure I was dying, but then all of a sudden just not, and just be like, all right. Especially when it comes to this faith thing that I've been like reconsidering, like, what do I actually believe? But then, I mean, I guess it all just boiled down to the good old problem of divine hiddenness, and just the issue of like, okay, I'm not seeing anything. And of course, like I'm talking with a lot of other Christians, being in the whole like deconstruction community, and just especially at that point in my life, just wanting something solid I could actually like anchor to. But all the answers I'm hearing from everyone, no matter like what view of God they have, I'm like, okay, well, how do you actually know that? But then it all is just coming down to, well, this is just what I choose to believe. But then also later finding out that I'm autistic, like that whole like, well, don't expect answers doesn't really jive with the way our brains work. So yeah, it eventually just came down to a point where actually during a prayer exercise for a small group I was in at the time, we were supposed to just like spend an hour alone with God. So I'm like, all right. So I just sat there in my garage for an hour. Said, all right, God, if you're here, I'm waiting. And 1 hour turned into almost 5 years, and still haven't heard anything since. So,
well, first of all, congratulations on beating cancer.
Yeah, thanks.
For all practical purposes. I mean,
yeah, fun cancer research, everybody.
Yeah, no kidding. But my question related to that would be, when you were going through that experience, when you were fighting it, how did you view God? Were you did you turn to God to try to help you beat it, or were you skeptical about God's like power to do that.
Yeah. Trying to think. Yeah, basically at the point I was at when I got diagnosed, like I said, after already like deconstructing, I think at the time I would have called myself a universalist panentheist. Don't ask me to define panentheist. I still don't exactly know what it means. All I know is at the time it sounded cool. I was like, yeah, I'm proudly that. But it was, but I guess at that point, my view of God was very much more like, the kind of people who say things like, well, I don't really see God as a being, but just being itself, kind of thing. So I just viewed God as like just pure goodness so yeah. So when it came to what I thought of him, and like you said, whether it was like a seeking after him or crying out to him or whatever, I guess my belief in God was like I didn't really see prayer, as it were, as so much like a necessary thing, just because we're all just so connected with God. You don't need to like focus on talking to him, like, because you're just kind of always in his presence, always like in his thoughts. He's always in your thoughts, kind of thing. So yeah, so I guess at that point, if it makes sense, just it wasn't really necessarily an intentional, but more, I guess anything I was doing at that point was not so much prayer as, you might call it something more like meditation or mindfulness, or just trying to like get in touch with, whatever it is going on. I even remember saying things like, I'm not even trying necessarily to fight my cancer. In fact, I actually love my cancer, and we'll just trying to get my body to start cooperating and working around. Now, fortunately, at the time, I was also like going to doctors and hospitals and taking like actual medicines, because that's ended up being what actually did it. But I guess you could say having that attitude, just helped me more psychologically going through it, because it definitely did get to a point where I did start getting like pretty freaking terrified, especially when they found out there was actually a tumor like inside my heart. That was pretty scary. But that basically at the point where I was like, okay, this is probably it. So at that point, I just kind of was just working on, resigning myself to the idea that this is it. But then like a month and a half later, I was in remission. I was like, what the hell? So yeah, so honestly, as I'm looking back on it now, like, I guess I wasn't really even necessarily like consciously thinking of God too much in that. I remember like being in the hospital. It was a Christian hospital I was in, not a Catholic one, just like Protestant or whatever. But they had kind of like this chaplain lady who was like not necessarily any certain religion or denomination, but just someone to come around, see if anyone just wanted like some prayer or talk or whatever. And I remember like, and this is something I never really thought about before, but I remember when she just came in the room and asked if I wanted prayer, I was just almost instinctively just like, no, thanks. I'm good. But then like, as I was saying those words, I was like, wow, like that's new. So yeah, I don't know if that answered your question or.
Yeah, that does.
I tend to ramble.
No, that's fine. Extreme circumstances like that can often be a litmus test of where your true beliefs are. Like I had a near-death experience about 6 months after becoming an atheist. My heart ran away, supraventricular tachycardia, and it's instantly jacked up to 260 beats per minute, and I couldn't stop it. And the hospital was 22 miles away, and I was convinced I was dead. And we got in the car. We just did like 90 miles an hour and called ahead because it would be quicker than calling an ambulance. And as we got closer to the hospital, I was like losing feeling in my extremities because my heart was like not able to fully get the blood where it needed to go, and it was like burning itself out. And if it had been 5 to 10 additional minutes, I probably would have flatlined. And I was convinced I was going to die right there at the side of the road. And for me, that was kind of a litmus test. It's like, in your moment of need, when you're basically a dead man, are you going to turn back to God, or are you going to remain steadfast in your disbelief? And like I after that, I knew where my true belief was, and it wasn't with God. Like I did not turn to God when I needed him. So that was kind of I was like proving to myself that I knew I was out. Now, on the flip side, my wife was praying the whole time to the hospital. So
I bet. Yeah. Yes. Kind of. I guess, a similar-ish experience, because like I said, like me going through that whole, which also, by the way, glad you made it too. So that's, pretty fucking awesome. But yeah,
well, I guess so far we're both here now. That's what counts. But
right.
In the long run, who knows?
Yeah. So far so good. Also, forgot to ask.
You got to live every day like it's your last.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Also, sorry, forgot to ask like what your guys' thoughts are on language on the show. Like already dropped.
No, you're fine. Can I before we you know more about language, but a couple quick things to try. Cool. Elliot, can you go to settings and make sure that you're go to settings and audio and make sure your echo cancellation is checked. It is checked. Okay. The other thing they're recommending is that we turn down our speaker volumes because they might be picking up in our mics. That's never been an issue, I know, but it might help for tonight anyway until I get a hold of them. Just turn it down. Just a couple.
And if it helps, like the echo I'm hearing of myself, it doesn't sound like I'm coming through a microphone. It sounds like I'm replaying through your computer and like hearing that. So I'm hearing my voice just like I'm hearing yours.
So if you turn down your speakers like 2 decibels, whatever you would call the speaker volume, turn it down like 2 decibels and see if that helps. Because mine is turned down now and I'm not hearing an echo with Tommy. Come back in turn your mic off, back on, and see what you sound like, Elliot. See if that helped.
Testing. Yeah. I don't think I'm hearing myself.
I don't hear it, Tommy.
Okay. Can you hear?
Yeah. No, I think that helped.
Well, I'm still hearing the echo.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, we can hear you twice. So
then maybe your speaker needs to be turned down a couple notches.
Let's see. Well, I mean, because I'm just listening through an earbud.
Oh, well, then if you're on an earbud, then you should be fine. That's not affecting it then. Well, it's better than it was. Okay. I think.
Well, I can mess with some more settings here. I mean, because in audio we've got stereo audio. It says echo cancellation must be turned off to use stereo audio. I don't know what that is. Might try that.
Yeah, it's incredibly frustrating. I will contact them this week and figure it out, but at least it's helping a little bit with the mic volume, with the speaker volume down. Tommy, it sounds like you've been through kind of like hell. Good Lord, like so many issues. I'm so sorry, man. It's tough.
Yeah. But, I mean, and that was just going through the cancer. I mean, not to brag, but I think probably between 2020 to 2023, if you look up online, like the 5 most stressful events that can happen in a person's life, not only did I hit all 5, some I hit multiple times, and sometimes I was up to like 3 at once. So, but having come through it though, like I said, like going into remission from cancer, I remember it's kind of similar to like Elliot, what you were saying, like with your story about like having that kind of litmus test or whatever shortly, like 6 months or so after like leaving the faith. I mean, for me, like I said, it's kind of hard to say like when exactly I left. I think probably say by the time I went into remission from cancer, I think even by that point, I was kind of thinking, I don't think I'm actually a Christian anymore. I mean, I may still believe in like a God of some sort, but the whole like actual Christianity and like, I think I'd like deconstructed that so much. I was like, there really doesn't seem to be anything actually solid here. But one of the things that really drove it home for me, because afterwards, because like still at the time, so much of my community, like most of my friends, like still to this day, like just about all my family is still Christian. And that was basically my whole community at the time. So you can imagine all of them were like, oh, look what God did for you. He clearly loves you so much. It's a miracle and everything. But I just kept falling back to like something. This is something that I was even thinking a lot, like when I was a like devout, committed Christian, like, the story you hear all the time, a tornado rips through a town, kills dozens of people. But someone's like, oh, but it missed my house. God saved me or whatever, like not, recognizing all the rest of the carnage and deaths that did happen. So at that point, like really all I could think of was like, okay, yeah, I was apparently, because like I said, the cancer did go away pretty quickly. Now, looking back on it, it actually pretty much coincided pretty well with treatments for my particular kind of cancer right around that time had been like skyrocketing. So like survival rates for stage 4 melanoma, I think right now we're getting close to like 50%, where at the time it was more around 20, maybe 15%. So, I mean, you could call it the miracle of modern medicine if you want, but if you want to call it miraculous. But basically all I could think of is, okay, even more so now that I'm like in it, like, I don't know if I can say like, well, God clearly loves me, because like I'd had so many like family and friends who had died of cancer, you know, like I said, not to mention all the people, like probably millions of people who have died of like the very same cancer I had, you know, for millennia before me. So just the idea of saying, well, God clearly loves me so much. Okay, well, then what does he think of them? So I was like, well, if it feels bad to credit God for my healing, like, what does that mean? Because if there is a God who is loving, then I'm supposed to be able to credit him for like the good things, but that doesn't seem like it really works. So that was probably, like I said, ultimately it came to like the whole like divine hiddenness thing and realizing there was nothing real solid. That was maybe one of the first, like, you know, that first thread you kind of pull that gets like the sweater to unravel, as it were, I guess.
Yeah. Well, the cancer thing is a very interesting phenomenon as it relates to religion, because it's one of the many, but one of the biggest ones that you can point to say, you know, God is responsible for like extreme suffering in the world, and he's not doing anything about it, and it affects everyone.
Right.
Like it affects children. In fact, right now we have extreme runaway cancer rates in the millennial generation. Very young people are getting cancer at extremely high rates. And that's going to translate to, just because the numbers are large, it's going to translate to a lot of them going into spontaneous remission and then looking to credit God for that. But on the flip side, a lot of them are going to die and God did nothing to help them. So it's an interesting dilemma that people are going to be confronted with. And at the same time, of course, with much greater cancer rates means much more priority on research, which will translate to better treatments and the mortality rate going down, which is something that God refuses to do on his own. So we're all the way back to we fixed it, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, especially if you think like in the case of my cancer, which was melanoma, which comes from the sun. So you speak, you know, like because at least you can say if someone gets lung cancer, because they smoke, so that's kind of there or whatever. But like all I did was go out in the sun that made for me, apparently, but forgot to turn the cancer rays off or whatever.
That can you guys unmute for a second and talk? See if that makes a difference.
Okay. Go for it.
Tommy,
check,
do you hear
check.
Oh,
yeah, I'm still just hearing my own echo.
I thought maybe this would make a difference because I had it on in the past, but it's not seeming to matter.
Yeah, like it sounds like it's something that's going on internal. Like it's not like between mics and speakers. There's probably something in the program that's like doubling the audio somewhere. But yeah.
So when I mute Ellen, you, from my perspective, Tommy, you lose your echo, even though I'm talking. So let me mute mine, and we'll see if Ellen, go ahead and say something.
Test 1, 2, 3.
Check. Yeah, I'm still hearing myself back.
Yeah. So Tommy, when I mute Ellen and I don't mute myself, now talk and see if you can hear yourself.
Okay, test 1, 2. I'm not hearing myself back in the same way now. It is just sounding like a very faint echo, like it is being picked up by a mic. So yeah, so like the main echo, that's gone. Yeah.
Okay, so it's better when Ellen's muted, but it's the same when I'm muted. Interesting. I don't want to say Ellen's the problem, but like we've done a scientific experiment here, Ellen, and you're the odd man out. We're going to vote you off the island.
Yeah, it's a weird thing to happen because I'm trying to, because this has happened to me. Like I also do a live stream. You can see my name down there, you know, shameless plug. When this happens to me is when but it only happens when I'm sharing like a full screen. Like if I'm playing like a video on our stream from my computer and I'm sharing that entire screen, and I'm sharing audio, then it's like also like redoubling the entire audio through the computer. But that only happens when I'm sharing. I mean, obviously, it doesn't look like you guys are sharing anything, so I don't know.
Yeah, this is literally we've done this for I can't tell you how many weeks, and literally the last 2 weeks is the first time this has just randomly started happening.
Yeah, but also I don't use StreamYard, so not as familiar with it and how it does stuff. So
yeah, well, they're gonna have to fix this because this is not bearable every week.
It only starts when we bring a guest on now.
Yep, I know.
And we don't even have to bring them like onto the show. We just have them backstage, and it starts. And then once they leave, it doesn't go away. We have to go out and come back in, and then it's gone. So so
maybe it's my fault.
Third party.
Sorry.
Oh, it's definitely your fault. You're to blame.
Yep. There you go.
So anyway, Tommy, what tonight's, we're talking about Christianity causes an identity crisis. So and everything. Oh, before we go into that, what kind of beer is that? There's an IPA in it.
Oh, it is. Did you tell by the glass?
It's pretty.
Yes. Yeah. This is Sierra Nevada Torpedo IPA.
Okay, that's a really hoppy IPA. I like it though.
Yeah. Well, for me, that's basic.
It's basic. I thought the Torpedo was pretty hoppy, but I do like hoppy beers. Anyway, so how did Christianity affect your identity, if it did at all?
Oh, did it? Well, I mean, in a lot of the ways you probably hear from a lot of Christians, at least evangelicals. Like I said, I was never Catholic or Orthodox, so I can't necessarily speak for them. But yeah, I mean, as a Christian, especially in the later, well, I guess probably the whole way through, just maybe thought about it in different ways. But yeah, that basically was my identity. I mean, like I said, that's what I grew up in, like from birth. My family on both sides have been like Christian for as far back as we have family record, basically. So yeah, it was. One of the ways it was expressed, especially kind of in my later days in like the bigger like evangelical churches I was in, it was like, yeah, your identity is in Christ. Like, you just on your own as a human are like dirty and sinful and like, all your thoughts are corrupt or whatever, but it's okay because in Jesus, you're all good. So, and it's one of those things that, I mean, like, sure is also the case for a lot of people. You don't really quite understand what all it's doing to you and like to your mind and your sense of self until you leave. And now, because like I said, after, especially just with all the things that were happening, with the combination of like surviving cancer, losing my faith. Also at this point, I was kind of like in between jobs. Cause like I said, this was back in 2021. And like when COVID hit in early 2020, I'd lost my job, which was kind of like my career-ish, even though I kind of hated it. So I didn't so much mind losing my job, but I was still in that mindset of, okay, what do I want to do for work now? Like, and just kind of reevaluating even things like, what do I consider, what does success even mean? Like what, and because even, because like Elliot, you were saying earlier about, going through that near-death experience, like not in the, like, I saw a tunnel and angels and God and stuff, but, like literally having an experience where you were near to dying, and how that does kind of give you a whole new perspective on life. As much as I kind of hated to admit it at the time, because I just tend to hate cliches, but it's like, damn it, it really does give you a new perspective on life. And all that to say, so essentially I was in every aspect of my life rebuilding, especially now, because also since then I had been married at the time, but I'm in the process of that no longer being the case. But so yeah, it's just rebuilding everything. So now I basically, I guess, long story short, just spending the past few years just actually figuring out who I actually am. Because I don't have to filter everything through the God lens, like, what does God want for me in this situation? Or what's God's plan for my life? It's like, no, like, what do I want? What is my plan for my life? Like, what does success look like to me? What does happiness look like to me? What does being a good dad look like to me? And all that. So it's been incredibly freeing. So like all those people who say things like, oh, if outside of Christianity, like without God, life is like meaningless and purposeless and all this shit. And like, you'll just be like so confused and so lost. I'm like, fucking lie. It feels so much better. Now, not saying it was easy. Like obviously there are still a lot of things about it that are difficult, kind of like breaking the habits, learning to think in different ways. I mean, it's not all, exactly a, wine and roses or whatever, but fucking worth it. So,
dude, you're preaching my story, man. It's amazing. Yeah, it's exactly what I felt. Yeah, 100%.
cool.
Yeah, when it comes to like rebuilding an identity, I guess. I mean, I had Ellen tell his story of how he rebuilt it, and you're obviously in the process. Um, I mean, I tried for a while, like to answer the question, "Who am I?" And then I got to the further question of like, "Why does it matter?" And like I fell into nihilism for a long time, and I guess still technically I'm a nihilist, but my final conclusion was like I don't need necessarily an identity to give myself meaning and purpose. I'm just a regular guy who wants to be left alone. And like that's all that I need. I because at the end of the day, like I'm just an up jumped animal, and animals don't really have meaning and purpose and identity. They just live their lives based on instinct. I'm like, I can technically do the same thing if I just follow my instincts. Like I don't need God to go grocery shopping. I don't need an identity to go grocery shopping. I don't have to tell myself a story about myself to go grocery shopping and to have dinner. I'm going to do all these things anyway that I have to do, and I'm going to keep living because my survival instincts that have been evolved into me are so extremely strong that like I don't have to tell myself a story. So that's kind of where I ended because like honestly, like I don't have a story to tell myself. I don't have an identity and I don't know where to get one. And I don't know if even if I found one, if it would even matter. So
yeah. Hell
I
yeah.
mean, take from that what you will. It's not really advice. It's just kind of reality, I suppose.
Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, I came across this term a few years ago. I don't know if it's an official philosophical term or just a term that was used in a YouTube video, but optimistic nihilism, essentially just recognizing there is no grand, big P purpose, if you will, for life. But so some might say, well, that's the bad news. But the good news is that means you can just make your own, like if you want to. But yeah, but speaking of like identity, I mean, and I don't know, like I said, I'm like finding out I'm autistic. I don't know if it's related to that, but just the idea even of having an identity or having a story, or I feel like this is my life's purpose. Like sometimes I almost feel like that is a little too constraining because like, even if it's something I pick for myself, like I'd be like, I might change my mind tomorrow or like in the next 5 minutes. I don't know. So I don't even like, because this is something you even see a lot in the secular community. It's almost like you have to give your life like a mission statement or whatever. It's like, I mean, I could see that how that can be helpful. Like for some people, like, so if that is helpful for you, people out there, awesome. But for me, there's really more. Yeah, I mean, like basics. I mean, I'd say like in general, it's like, okay, I want to be like a good person, a good dad, a good friend, whatever. But as far as like just the day to day, what does that actually mean? It's like, yeah, that could change day to day. Like some days I feel like I'm, want to like, really hit the ground running, get shit done. Like other days, it's like, it's a Saturday. I got nothing to do. I just want to sit on my couch and play Elden Ring all day. But I have both kind of days, and that's all right.
I think maybe what might be more useful and what actually exists in reality, because like an identity is an abstract concept, and there's a real risk with abstract concepts because they aren't real, but we try to force them to be. They can lead us in some really like negative places, which is essentially what Christians do. And I guess if someone's struggling for identity, like who am I, and they pursue that in the wrong way, they're going to bring harm to themselves or even others, depending on what they choose to pursue. But maybe what would be more useful instead of identity is image. Like we all build an image of how other people see us, and we do it instinctively. There's no way out of it. Like we decide what we're going to wear, how we're going to style our hair, how we're going to grow a facial hair, like how we're going to keep our hygiene. Like it's an image that we're always presenting to the public. And like maybe if we just focus more on that, like how do I want other people to see me, or how I conduct myself with other people, it's far more pragmatic and useful than pursuing some esoteric, abstract, who am I?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I agree with that. I'm not sure that determining how I want to live based on my image and how it appears to other people is a good approach to life. Like I'd rather care less about what other people think of me and actually be who I want to be.
But you're doing it anyway. I mean, you just looking at you, Alan. I mean, I haven't met you in person, but like it's obvious that you get a certain type of haircut. You cut your facial hair a certain way, and obviously you choose what you're going to wear every day. But do you do those things for yourself necessarily, or because you're not walking around in front of a mirror all day? It's how everyone else is seeing you 99% of the time. Like that's what we
Well,
the image we present and we create is always for others most of the time.
I mean, when you're talking about physical appearance, sure. Um, and my physical appearance is how I appear is first and foremost important to me and how my wife sees me because I want her to be attracted to me. Um, so I value her opinion more than anybody else's. And frankly, if she likes something, I don't care what anybody else thinks. And if she doesn't, then also don't care what anybody else thinks. So that to me is my priority when it comes to my appearance. But when it comes to um, decisions I want to make and who I want to be, I first and foremost want it to be what makes me happy because I'm only going to live this life once. So um, the second person that's important to that is my wife, but primarily it's me. I and I'm choosing what I want to do every single day because it's what I want to do. It's what makes me happy. So if by image you mean physical appearance, then yeah, sure, I'll agree 100%. But if you're talking about who you are as a person, I don't know that I don't know that I would agree with that.
Well,
Hmm.
I mean, I would disagree with you to this particular point. That whether we think so or not, almost everything we do is about status because that's how we've evolved. Like we are primates, and within the tribe of primates, like everything is about where your status is in the dominance hierarchy, and like everything you do in some way, whether it's conscious or not, is is pointed in that direction. And so while you say you might not care what other people think, um, I I'm not going to put myself in your head and like judge what the truth is, but I would be inclined to think that perhaps a psychiatrist would say maybe you're lying to yourself, maybe you don't realize it. But like everything we do is a competition for status. Even us doing this podcast, like we are putting ourselves out there to the public in a certain way. Um, to gain some kind of traction within a small community to build it. We want viewers, we want subscribers, we want callers. When callers come on that are Christians, we argue with them. Like all of that is a status game
Well,
in a particular way. Maybe not fully.
but that's choice that we've made to do. Like we don't have to be doing this. So yes, I mean certainly status plays a role in our decisions. But only because for me that's important. So I personally want to have a status in the public eye because I want to sell my book. I want to um, be able to be a public speaker. I like those kinds of things. Being in the public does a service to me. It makes me happy because I'm much happier with a mic and 1,000 people in front of me than I am being quiet. But some people they'd rather die than being in front of 1,000 people. So some people this would be a nightmare to them. So this is what I'm choosing to do because it's what makes me happy and it's what I want to be. But I'm not sure um, my primary desire is status. Sorry, let me restate that. My primary desire isn't what a person or individual or a group of people think of me as much as it is I just want to be known. So like, you know what they say, bad publicity is good publicity. So like they may not like me at all, but if I had 10,000 people following me, I'd be just as happy.
Well, let's do a quick thought experiment then. Let's play this out. Let's game this out. I'm just going to take what I've noticed before about your appearance because that's all I've got to work with, unfortunately. But
And Tommy, if you have an opinion, feel free to pipe up.
Yeah, I definitely have some thoughts, but yeah, I'll let Elliot finish.
Yeah, just right after I do this, get an answer from Alan, then I'll give it to you for your thoughts. You said your primary motivation is how your wife sees you, and you don't really care how you look for yourself necessarily, or or what anyone else cares about you. But considering the fact that like you are in the public eye, you are doing this podcast. Let's assume for a second that your wife says, "Ellen, actually, what I really want you to look like, since I'm the one that it matters the most, my desires, I want you to totally shave your head and cut your beard off." And like, I think that's super attractive. That's what I want. But at the same time, like, you have this dilemma because you're on this podcast and maybe you don't think that you look very good when you shave your head and shave your beard. So like, what's more important to you? How the image that you're building in the public eye, or like your wife? You have to balance those in a certain way. It's just hypothetical. If that's what she wanted, would you do it? Considering you are on YouTube.
100%. I would do that. 100%. I would try that. I would have no problem with that whatsoever. And I don't think personally that would affect my reputation in the public eye at all. I don't think whether I have a bald head or a beard, I don't think it makes any difference. So I don't think the public would care.
Okay. I think most people would care, but I mean, props to you for not caring. Yeah. I mean, you're comfortable with however you look, but like,
well, I mean, because I don't know, for some reason, when I wasn't with Ray, obviously I was more interested in what other people thought because I was dating, and so I had a much broader desire to see what the majority thought of my appearance. So that was different. But when you hone it into the one person, then it's like, hey, this is the most important person. If they find me the most attractive, bald and beardless, that's what I'm going to try. Now, she's already told me, no way in hell I'm going bald and losing my beard. So there's no threat of that happening.
Would you shave your eyebrows?
Okay, so now you're getting somewhere.
Is there a line where you would say, you know what, I'm going to look too stupid. I'm not going to do that for you.
I think I would not shave my eyebrows. And I'm not sure it would have so much to do with my public appearance as it would be that I just think it would be weird not to have eyebrows. I don't know. That would just be awkward. But I don't know. That's a good one. You might have me there. I don't know what my motivation truly is, but you do have me there. I don't think I would do that.
I mean, I love my wife more than anything in the world, but if she asked me to dramatically change my appearance to a point where I would be shamed to go on to YouTube, like, I would have to say, I'm sorry, I got to draw the line. And if you love me, you won't ask me to do that.
Yeah, no, I think there are certain lines that I would. I agree with you. There are lines, like I wouldn't do the eyebrows. If she told me that she wanted me to get fat, I'd be like, sorry, not happening. So yeah, I know. I mean, I think there are certain things that I wouldn't do, but that's because I care more about, what I want to feel like. And when I look in the mirror, I don't personally want to look weird. But I mean, there's certain things that I would try. Like I said, shaving my head. I don't think I'd look good bald, and neither does she. So I don't think there's any threat of that. But in theory, I would. But this is an interesting thought experiment. But yes, there are certain things I wouldn't do. But again, you bring up a good point. What is my true motivation? I'm not 100% sure now. That's a good question. What do you think, Tommy?
Yeah, Tommy, your thoughts on status, image, hierarchy, identity? Go for it.
Yeah, I think listening to you two talking and like seeming to like disagree, I was kind of finding, maybe it's the growing up a middle child, but like I'm like, where's the middle ground here? But I think in a way it's kind of both. Like first, it depends what you mean by being concerned about your image as it pertains to like how other people see it. I think like what you're saying, Elliot, is true. Like, yeah, like there's a reason, I wear the t-shirts I do, or yeah, I mean, I honestly, like for me, shaving my head is mostly because like when I had cancer, the primary tumor was on the back of my head. So it's just easier for bandages and stuff. And I ended up just liking how it looked, or like the way I do my facial hair, or the way I normally dress, or carry myself, or interact with people. Like, yeah, I mean, if you're going to be interacting with people, like, yeah, you almost can't help but care how other people are receiving you. Otherwise, you're like considered like antisocial, psychopath, and like just no one wants to talk to you. But I think where it's maybe more kind of like what Alan's referring to, but just like, as the way what he's expressing is, not caring what other people think, but just more about like how he is. I think it's really kind of both. Like you still are like the way you carry yourself and the way you interact, the way you present yourself still is, keeping in mind, how am I being perceived? But you're just changing it to, okay, instead of I'm worried about what other people think of me, as in like, what do they want? Or what do I think they want from me? But kind of changing it to, I'm interested and care about how other people see me, but on my terms. It's like, I want to make sure I'm presenting myself the way I want to be presented to them, not the way I think they're expecting me to be, if that makes sense. But also, real quick, just wanted to shout out Aunt Jer in the chat. She's one of the regulars and a mod on our show, but apparently she has a big P purpose, which fair enough.
Yeah. She also made a great comment there. Why don't you want to look weird, and what is weird? I mean, that's a valid question. What is weird? I guess it's just a personal preference. It's what you personally want to or not want to look like. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't care whatsoever if somebody else decided to shave their eyebrows. That's their preference, and it doesn't bother me a bit. It doesn't affect my life. It's just me personally, I wouldn't want it. But yeah, I mean, it's a valid point. I mean, what is weird? I mean, it's each to his own.
Yeah. I guess the way I would express it is, I'm still caring like how I appear to other people, but caring less what they want as far as how I appear, and more just like I'm caring about how I want to present myself to them, if that makes sense.
So this is an interesting question that I suppose we can address. One of the mods says, why don't you want to look weird, and what is weird? So I guess I would answer first, what is weird? Weird is something that deviates from the normal social expectations, obviously, to the point where people are going to focus their attention on you in a way that's not necessarily positive, I guess. That's how I would define it. And why don't I want to look like that? I guess because of the consequences. I appeal to consequences for most of the things that I do, maybe all of the things I do. That's just the way that the world is wired. Looking weird would have negative consequences on me, socially, my reputation. I mean, it's a natural human instinct to want to have a good reputation and want to have people like you, and to not be singled out for negative attention. So it's natural to not want to look weird, and weird is whatever is not natural, if that makes sense.
Do you mean not socially acceptable by natural?
Right. Because, like, I guess I'd call it majority privilege. Blending in is majority privilege. It means you don't get singled out because you stick out. And I mean, you can call it natural, be like, well, that's the natural state because the most amount of people are in that state, I guess. Like, that's the state found in nature, the nature of your society, the nature of your social norms. I'm just free balling off the top of my head here, so I could definitely be wrong.
Yeah. And I think Alexander Hurst here in the chat makes another good point. Yeah, isn't the value of the opinion of others dependent on how you value them? Because, like, yeah, I mean, I guess I would say, yeah, most people like that are alive in the world is like, yeah, I really don't give a shit what they think of me. But for the people I actually do care about, yeah, I very much give a shit what they think of me and all that. But that's also, in a way, kind of how I evaluate which people are important to me. Because this was another big realization I had, coming off that whole like surviving cancer, reevaluating the everything kind of thing, and just realizing like the people that I value the most as far as like my relationships and who I really want to be around are the people who, when I'm around them, they just let me be myself. Like, so yeah, just being myself and just realizing, yeah, there's certain people who are in my life, maybe certain situations. I mean, I know, like, especially when it comes to like working a job, you kind of can't help be around people. You can't always completely be yourself, when you're working or whatever. But when it comes to just like friends and honestly, sometimes even family, it's like, if I feel like being around you means I can't fully be myself, then I'm not really interested in being around you. So
I think that's a great place to wrap things up. I like that statement. That was good. We do have to end at some point, even though this conversation is getting fun, but we do need to end. So, Tommy, can you stick around until after the show so we can see if we can diagnose this issue with the echoes? You might be able to help us figure it out if you don't mind. So just stick around. Sure. When the show ends, we're gonna all get pulled off the screen, and then like after the outro, It'll take me like about 30 seconds before I bring you back in. So just hang tight and I'll bring us in. Before we go, everybody, just a couple of quick things coming up. This Sunday, let's talk on Skeptic Haven here. Angry atheist black women. That's going to be a fun one with Mandisa and Cynthia. You will not want to miss that. So that is on Sunday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on Skeptic Haven. So make sure you check that out. Don't miss it. And then next Tuesday night at 6 p.m., our regular time slot in the Deconversionists, our show topic, Faith Makes Friendships Fickle. That'll be a fun one. So come back and talk about that. If you are a theist or a Christian and you disagree, we would like to know why. Why you think friendships are stronger when you are Christians. We think they're weaker. So come back and talk to us about that. And then, of course, don't forget to check out Deconversion Nation on Facebook. Come find us. We'd love to carry the conversation there and dialogue with you further. So make sure you're part of that. And check out my channel, The Unraveler AB, for Alan Bondar, The Unraveler AB, where you'll find a weekly series, Unravelation, comes out twice a week on Mondays and Thursdays at 4 p.m. You can find the link in the info below. Don't miss it. Check it out. Make sure you subscribe. And those episodes relate to the topics that we talk about right here on the Deconversionists every Tuesday night. With that said, any closing thoughts from you guys, either one of you?
As usual, that'll do.
As usual, that'll do.
I've said everything that needs to be said, or I would keep on talking.
All right, Tommy.
Like the topic announcement next week about like faith and its effect on friendships. Yeah, I have some thoughts on that from leaving my faith community and what happened with the friendships there. But also appreciate Aunt Jer there in the chat with the link to my channel. If anyone does want to check out my show, I do a show called The Humanity. It's on Wednesday night. So tomorrow, it's 8 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, we just live stream, usually watch some like apologetics or other Christian videos. Like tomorrow, we're actually continuing to watch a sermon from mine and my co-host Matt's former church with Marin from the channel Misinterpretations. If anyone's familiar with her, she's joining us talking about like faith versus science and all that. So yeah, come hang out. It's good times.
Well, good, Tommy. Thank you for joining us, and I do hope you'll come back next week then to talk about that topic. It would be nice to have you be a part of that, and maybe we won't have to deal with this echo thing. So everybody who has joined us, we thank you so much for being with us. Aunt Jer, thank you so much for throwing my link in there as well for the Unraveler. Appreciate you doing that. It's also in the info. So everybody, thank you again for being a part of this. Thanks for being a part of Skeptic Haven and supporting the work that we're doing here. Remember, everybody, every Christian has their own version of Christianity. We're here to unravel your conversion. Have a great night, everybody.